What's up, guys? This is Aaron, and it's time for Week 11 College Football Best Bets. All right, so to recap last week real quick, we were 5-2. So on the video, I gave out 4 plays. They went 2-2, and I gave out a bunch of leans that mostly hit. Georgia Tech, Penn State, Rutgers team total under, Kansas State all hit. And USC lost. So if you totaled everything, that was 6-3. So you got to follow me on Twitter. I have some late ads sometimes, so you want to make sure you get everything. So on the season, 44-16. That's almost 20 units of profit. So for this week, I've got 4 best bets right now. And then I've got a few more I might add. So we're 2-0 for the week. We had, if you follow me on Twitter, we had Central Michigan money line, and then we had Pitt in the first half. So we're 2-0 so far this week. So best bet number 1 is going to be Alabama first quarter, minus 13.5 against New Mexico State. So Alabama had a very poor offensive showing last week against LSU. Not a lot of energy, dropping passes, anything they could do to screw it up, they did. And, this week against New Mexico State, this has got to be a get-right spot for the offense. They can, run in space. There's a huge speed difference, big talent difference. So this has got to be a game where they start strong and just pile it on. So Alabama, on defense, they're 5th in the country in yards per carry, where New Mexico State is 120th rushing the ball. So New Mexico State, mostly they throw, so they can't run, so they're going to have to throw. And Alabama's 17th in the country in sacks. New Mexico State is 99th in the country allowing sacks. So this seems like New Mexico State probably gets into a lot of third downs. And Alabama can probably just tee off with guys like Will Anderson. So hopefully Alabama will get the ball first. That really helps. Probably get 3 possessions each minimum. Hopefully we can squeeze out a 4th. But I think, if Alabama gets a guy in space, with the speed difference, they should just be able to run up and down the field. A couple of years ago, these teams played. Alabama was up 21-0 after the first quarter. So hopefully we get a quarter that's like that. The second play is going to be Michigan and Penn State. So I got Penn State at a pick'em. The money is actually coming on Michigan, so it's Penn State plus 1.5 now, so you can get a little better line. So last week for Penn State was supposed to be a huge flat week, where they really struggle on the road. They just lost to Ohio State in a close, pretty close game, and then Michigan on deck, a huge rivalry game again. And not only was it not a flat spot, but Penn State wins the game and they win by margin. The spread was 10, they win by 17. So I like that Penn State played Ohio State really tough. Then they come back the next week in what's supposed to be a flat spot, and they still play well and get the win. And now they have Michigan. That's another big rivalry game. So Penn State's defense is actually statistically better than Michigan's. And Michigan got to play, their best teams they've played this season are Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Michigan State. Michigan State's pretty good at running and throwing, but they're not super talented. Nebraska's got the talent, but they don't really put it together. And then Wisconsin, they're really one-dimensional. They can't really throw the ball. So I don't think Michigan has really been challenged by a team that's actually put together, playing at home. James Franklin, I saw a stat. He's like 36-8 or something like that, straight up at home, since he's been at Penn State. So you got to like how good Penn State plays at home. If this was at Michigan, probably Michigan's the right play. But I got to take Penn State here. They beat Auburn at the house 28-20. That's a similarly built team to Michigan. They had a 17-3 lead against Iowa, before the quarterback goes down. So that was going to be a win by margin against a good team. And then, lose them to Ohio State by 9. They held them to a bunch of field goals. So, they played really well. Um, and Penn State is 8th in yards per play on defense in the country. So you got to hope that Penn State plays really good defense. And, I'll take James Franklin over Harbaugh in a big game. So the third play is going to be UAB +5 at Marshall. Some places it's down to 4.5. I would still play it. You could play it for a little smaller if you wanted to, but I still like it at 4.5, and there's still some 5s out there. So UAB last year in the Conference USA title game, they beat Marshall 22-13, and they pretty well dominated, and they dominated Marshall's offensive line. They had 468 total yards, and Marshall had 268. So that's like a 200-yard difference. There's not a ton of difference between the teams last year to now. They got a lot of the same players. They do a lot of the same things. Marshall's just got a new coach. So Marshall is second in sacks. But then again, they played North Texas, Middle Tennessee, FIU, ECU, Old Dominion. Hard not to get sacks when you're playing teams with very little talent and bad offensive lines. And these are teams that not one of these teams really runs the ball well, so they're forced to pass. I think UAB's strength of schedule is slightly better. They did get blasted by Georgia, so they at least played that game. And UAB played Rice, Southern Miss, and North Texas. Those are terrible teams, but those are by far the 3 worst teams they played. I kind of like, a really hard-nosed team with pretty equal talent who had a better strength of schedule. And UAB is 13th in yards per carry on defense. So, Marshall's going to have a tough time running the ball. They're going to have to throw the ball. UAB's defensive line is really good. So I think, it's possible Marshall wins the game, but I think this is going to be a really close game. So let's take UAB +5. All right, so my fourth best bet is going to be Miami -2.5 at Florida State. So the last few times these teams have played, Miami won last time 52-10, 27-10, 28-27, and then 24-20. So they've won 4 in a row. 2 of those are in Tallahassee. So it's not like this home field advantage for Florida State is huge and that's going to make all the difference. So I just think that both of these teams are going in opposite directions. So we thought Florida State was looking pretty good. They destroyed UMass, and that's kind of a get-right spot where you can pad the stats and kind of look for the next week. But then they come out and they make so many mistakes in a game that they could have won against Clemson. And at the end of the game, you're down 3. You're trying to run a one last play for maybe a touchdown to win, and then they screw that up, and Clemson scores a touchdown to cover and win. Florida State's got a lot of ways to lose a game. And earlier in the season, Miami did too. But Miami's looking way better now. They had the 2-point loss to Virginia, the 3-point loss to North Carolina. So they were playing close games. They beat Pitt on the road. That's a great Pitt team. Then they came back. They beat Georgia Tech last week, and that was the flat spot. That was the spot where Miami should lose the game if they're not, focused and trending upward like I think they are. After you beat North Carolina State and Pitt, that's like the 2 best teams in the conference right now, and Miami's already beaten them. And so they were able to struggle and find a way to beat Georgia Tech last week in a flat spot. Also gave out Georgia Tech last week. So I was actually going to fade Miami last week. So I think I'm seeing Miami pretty well. And I think this is the kind of game, Miami has been just throwing the ball all around. They've gotten way better since De'Aaron King's been hurt. I guess he's like the 3rd string quarterback they're using now. Tyler Van Dyke, I think is his name. But, this guy's been really good. He's completing a lot of passes. He's been good at limiting mistakes. So as long as we can limit mistakes here, I think that Miami's a good play. So we'll take -2.5. So I've got a few leans here that I haven't played yet. You got to follow me on Twitter. I usually do have at least one late ad tomorrow. So I like ECU plus 5.5. Memphis is kind of in a flat spot. So it is at Memphis, but Memphis has not been very good this season. And, they beat UCF when they had like the third string quarterback in. Then they go and play SMU, and that's like the best team in the conference right now besides Cincy. And, they got the win, but SMU was in a flat spot last week. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. They only won by 3. And then next week, Memphis has Houston. So that's like the next best team in the conference. So I think this is sort of a look-ahead spot. And I think ECU might be able to either win or keep this game close. ECU's playing really well right now. Mississippi State plus 5.5 against Auburn. I really wish I could have got a 6 or even a 7, but we're not getting that. Auburn has to run for success, and Mississippi State is really good at stopping the run. So as long as they can continue to do that, their air raid offense actually eats up yards and it eats up time of possession. So even though all they do is throw the ball, they still have a lot of time of possession just like a running team because of the way that they run their offense. So Mississippi State has a knack for playing in close games. And besides the Alabama game, they don't lose by more than 5.5. So Tennessee first quarter plus 6.5. This is kind of a dicey play. Tennessee has started really well in some of these first quarters. They had the lead against Alabama after one. They only had they were down 3 to Florida after one. So they tend to come out. Teams have not seen what they want to do as much with the new offense under Josh Heupel. And Hendon Hooker has been really good. He doesn't turn the ball over much. He can run with his legs. And I would not be surprised if Tennessee at least keeps this close for a half. And if they can score a touchdown in the first quarter like they've been doing against some of these other teams that are also really good, this could be like a 7-7, 10-7. That's still a lean, though. And then the last one is Arkansas minus 2.5. They go at LSU, but I'm not sure that LSU's got a huge, home field advantage right now. They're not playing well. They didn't play well last year. They're coming off a Super Bowl game where they lost to Alabama. They played lights out. Alabama played horribly the whole game, and LSU still couldn't win. They had like 3 or 4 chances at the end of the game to put points on the board, and they couldn't do it. So off of a loss like that, I kind of like to go against a team that just came off of such a big emotional loss. They don't have much to play for anymore. So this is still just a lean for now. But again, follow me on Twitter. I might add some more. So that's 4 best bets for you. We're 44-16 on the season. That's almost 20 units of profit now. We're 2-0 on the week. So we're just trying to keep it going. Thanks, guys.